Why Japan's tourism has been booming since pre-COVID. Shopping and entertainment. Japan gives you things to see and to do, to buy, to experience, and to talk about for years after you've gone home. The shopping and entertainment culture here is layered in a way that cannot be replicated anywhere else on Earth. On one end of the spectrum, Ginza in Tokyo stands as one of the most prestigious shopping districts in the world, a gleaming corridor of luxury brands, flagship stores, and high-end dining that rivals the Champs-Élysées or Fifth Avenue. On the completely opposite end, Akihabara is a sensory explosion of electronics, anime merchandise, retro video games, and tech gadgets that draws collectors and enthusiasts from every corner of the globe. And then there is Kyoto, where the shopping experience slows down entirely. Handcrafted ceramics, lacquerware, traditional textiles, and artisan sweets that have been made the same way for centuries. Entertainment follows the same logic of breathtaking variety. Themed cafes are a cultural phenomenon unto themselves. Cat cafes, owl cafes, ninja-themed restaurants, and maid cafes where the performance is as much a part of the experience as the coffee. Karaoke is a novelty as well as a serious institution, with private rooms, professional sound systems, and song libraries that span every language and decade. Amusement parks, traditional kabuki and no performances, taiko drumming shows, and interactive digital art installations all sit within the same city boundaries. Pop culture and media influence. Long before social media existed to amplify it, our Japanese pop culture had already built a global army of devoted fans. And today, those fans are booking flights to see the thing with their own eyes. Anime and manga are the gateway for hundreds of millions of people worldwide. Series like Naruto, One Piece, Dragon Ball, Attack on Titan, and Studio Ghibli films are interests and global phenomena watched and loved across generations, cultures, and continents. For fans who grew up with these stories, they walk the streets that inspired fictional worlds. They visit the actual locations that were hand-drawn into beloved scenes. Akihabara, Tokyo's legendary electronics and anime district, is a living shrine to this cultural phenomenon, which every storefront, vending machine, and cafe is an extension of the fandom. Now, the Ghibli Museum in Mitaka and the newly opened Studio Ghibli theme park in Aichi attract visitors who have been waiting for the opportunity their entire lives. Shibuya Crossing has appeared in enough international films, music videos, and TV shows that stepping into it feels like walking onto a set. J-pop and K-pop's crossover influence has further expanded Japan's global visibility, and international productions increasingly set scenes, shoots, and storylines in Japanese cities, deepening the cultural curiosity of audiences who may never have thought about visiting before. Then social media arrived and poured fuel on all of it. Instagram and TikTok turned Japan's most visually stunning locations, like neon-lit alleyways, bamboo forests, torii gates stretching into water, cherry blossoms framing ancient temples, and into internationally viral content, government support, and tourism policies. Japan's government understood this early, and the results are visible in every aspect of the country's tourism growth. The Visit Japan campaign, launched and sustained over many years by the Japan Tourism Agency, has been one of the most effective national tourism promotion strategies in the world. It didn't just advertise Tokyo and Kyoto, the two cities that were already famous globally. It deliberately shone a spotlight on lesser-known regions, the ancient post towns of the Nakasendo Trail, the remote temples of Koyasan, the wild landscapes of Tohoku, the castle towns of Shikoku. This regional diversification was intentional policy, designed to spread economic benefits beyond the major urban centers and create a richer, more varied experience for visitors. Visa policies have played a significant role as well. Japan has expanded its list of visa-exempt countries considerably over the years, removing friction from the decision to visit for travelers across Asia, Europe, and the Americas. Simplified entry processes mean that the gap between someone thinking about Japan and actually booking a trip to Japan has narrowed considerably. Investment in tourist infrastructure has been consistent and forward-thinking. Multi-language signage has been rolled out across transportation hubs, tourist sites, and public spaces. Free Wi-Fi networks have been expanded in tourist areas. Tourist information centers are staffed with knowledgeable, multilingual guides. Digital tools and apps for navigating Japan's transportation system have been actively developed and promoted. And the government has also worked to develop cultural tourism around traditionally overlooked aspects of Japanese life. Rural homestay programs, artisan craft experiences, sustainable ecotourism in national parks. Rich cultural heritage. A civilization that stretches back thousands of years, largely unbroken in its cultural continuity and still visibly alive in daily life. That combination, ancient depth-meeting living practice, is extraordinarily rare in the modern world, and it draws travelers with an intensity that purely modern destinations simply cannot match. The traditional experiences available in Japan read like a bucket list in themselves. Tea ceremonies conducted in centuries-old tatami rooms, kimono rentals in the ancient lanes of Kyoto's Gion district, yang where you cannot tell whether you've stepped into the present or the past, sumo wrestling tournaments where the sport's ritual, mythology, and physical spectacle unfold exactly as they have for hundreds of years. Festivals like Kyoto's Gion Matsuri, which is one of the most elaborate and visually stunning festivals anywhere in the world, or the Sapporo Snow Festival, where artists from across Japan carve temporary masterpieces from tons of ice and snow before the season reclaims them. The landmarks carry weight. Kyoto alone holds more UNESCO World Heritage Sites than most entire countries. Nara's ancient shrines sit alongside freely roaming deer that have been considered sacred since the 8th century. Hiroshima's Peace Memorial Park carries a moral gravity that changes visitors in ways they don't fully anticipate before they arrive. But Japan has never been a country that lives entirely in its past. Tokyo's futuristic architecture, the immersive digital art installations at Team Lab Borderless, and the concentrated cultural energy of Shibuya demonstrate a society that innovates with the same seriousness it preserves tradition. Natural beauty and seasonal attractions. Nature and Japan provide a backdrop and structures the entire calendar of life. The seasons here are meteorological events and are cultural ones, anticipated, celebrated, and experienced with a depth of intentionality that visitors from other countries find genuinely moving. Spring and cherry blossom season is perhaps the most famous example. When the sakura bloom, typically sweeping northward from late March through May, depending on the year, Japan undergoes a collective transformation. Parks, riverbanks, castle grounds, and mountain paths become canopies of pale pink and white. Hanami, the tradition of gathering beneath the blossoms to eat, drink, and appreciate their fleeting beauty, is practiced by millions simultaneously. Travelers plan trips a year in advance specifically for this window. The fact that cherry blossoms last only 1 to 2 weeks makes the experience simultaneously precious and urgent. Autumn has its own devoted following. The koyo, the turning of maple and ginkgo leaves into deep reds, oranges, and golds, transforms landscapes across the country from September through November. Temple gardens designed centuries ago specifically with autumn viewing in mind become extraordinarily beautiful. Nikko, Kyoto's Arashiyama, and the mountains of Tohoku become pilgrimage sites for photographers, artists, and nature lovers. Winter in Hokkaido is an experience entirely its own. The northern island receives snowfall that transforms its already dramatic volcanic landscape into something otherworldly. Skiing resorts like Niseko have become internationally renowned. Some of the best powder snow on Earth draws professional skiers and winter sports enthusiasts from Australia, Europe, and North America every season. And then there is the geography beyond the seasons. Mount Fuji, visible on clear days from Tokyo, is one of the most recognizable natural forms on Earth. Okinawa's tropical islands offer coral reefs, turquoise water, and a pace of life that feels disconnected from mainland Japan entirely. The Japanese Alps provide dramatic trekking terrain. The volcanic hot spring regions, onsen culture, offer not just relaxation, but a deeply embedded cultural practice of communal bathing that visitors find genuinely restorative. Accessibility and infrastructure. A destination can be the most beautiful place on Earth, but if getting around it is stressful, expensive, or confusing, people stop coming. Japan solved this problem so thoroughly that the infrastructure itself has become part of the appeal. The Shinkansen bullet train network is, for many visitors, one of the highlights of the entire trip. Trains connecting Tokyo to Osaka cover the roughly 500-kilometer distance in under 2.5 hours, at speeds reaching 320 kilometers per hour, and arrive within seconds of their scheduled time, every time, with a consistency that feels almost surreal to travelers used to other rail systems. The network extends across the country, linking major cities from Hokkaido in the north to Kyushu in the south, and the Japan Rail Pass makes it financially accessible for tourists to cover enormous distances within a single trip. International access has been systematically expanded. Narita and Haneda airports serve Tokyo, with Haneda in particular offering remarkably convenient proximity to the city center. Kansai International Airport connects directly to Osaka, Kyoto, and Nara via fast rail links. Chubusen Trier serves the central region, including Nagoya. Multiple entry points mean that visitors can structure itineraries that don't require backtracking and that distribute tourist traffic beyond a single gateway city. Within cities, the subway and local rail networks are extraordinarily comprehensive. Tokyo's metro system alone is one of the largest and most punctual in the world. IC cards like Suica and Pasmo can be loaded with funds and tapped across trains, buses, and even convenience store purchases, removing the friction of cash transactions for visitors navigating unfamiliar systems. For international visitors specifically, Japan has invested seriously in reducing language barriers. Multilingual signage in English, Chinese, and Korean is standard at transportation hubs, tourist attractions, and increasingly in restaurants and shops. Free Wi-Fi networks in tourist zones, English-speaking staff at information centers, and widely available translation apps make the experience navigable for travelers with no Japanese whatsoever. World-renowned food culture. If there is a single category that surprises first-time visitors most profoundly, it is this one. People arrive in Japan expecting to be impressed by temples and technology. They leave talking about the food, and not just talking, obsessing, missing it, planning return trips partly to eat again what they had the first time. Japan holds more Michelin stars than any other country on earth, including France. That single fact tends to stop people in their tracks. More starred restaurants than France. In a country whose culinary philosophy is built on precision, discipline, seasonal sensitivity, and an almost spiritual relationship with ingredients, that achievement is the natural outcome rather than the surprise. But Japan's food culture is primarily about the extraordinary consistency of quality at every level. A bowl of ramen in a small basement shop in Sapporo, made by a chef who has devoted 30 years to perfecting the same broth recipe, is one of the most memorable meals a visitor will ever have. Conveyor belt sushi that costs less than a cup of coffee delivers fish sourced that morning from the market. Convenience stores, the legendary 7-Eleven, Family Mart, and Lawson chains, stock freshly made onigiri, sandwiches, hot soups, and desserts that consistently outperform fast food options in most other countries. Regional food culture adds an entirely separate dimension. Each prefecture has its own specialty dishes, seasonal ingredients, and preparation traditions that have been developed and refined over centuries. Osaka is revered as Japan's kitchen. Takoyaki, okonomiyaki, tsukushikatsu, a city that takes eating with a seriousness matched only by its enthusiasm. Kyoto's kaiseki cuisine is a philosophy as much as a meal, a multi-course seasonal experience that treats each ingredient as precious and each presentation as art. Hokkaido is famous for its dairy, seafood, and ramen. Fukuoka for its tonkotsu. Hiroshima for its layered okonomiyaki. To eat your way across Japan is to understand a culture in ways no guidebook can replicate. Food tourism is now one of the most powerful growth sectors in travel globally, and Japan sits at the absolute top of that category. Visitors plan their itineraries around restaurant reservations, food tours, market visits, cooking classes, and sake whiskey tastings are fully developed tourism products that attract dedicated culinary travelers. Safety, cleanliness, win-win hospitality. Every item on this list matters. Every reason contributes to why Japan's tourism numbers have climbed so dramatically. But at the very foundation, the reason that makes all the others possible, the reason that transforms a single visit into a lifelong love affair with a country, is this. Japan makes you feel safe, clean, respected, and genuinely welcome in a way that is almost impossible to fully describe to someone who hasn't experienced it. The safety statistics are remarkable. Japan consistently ranks among the safest countries in the world by every available measure. Violent crime rates, theft, assault, organized criminal activity affecting civilians. Walking alone at night in major Japanese cities is not a cautious decision reserved for the bold. It is simply what people do. Women traveling solo, families with young children, elderly visitors navigating unfamiliar cities, all move through Japan with a freedom and ease that travelers from many other countries find almost disorienting at first. You stop checking your pockets. You stop scanning the environment for threats. You relax in a way that is both physical and psychological. Cleanliness is the visual expression of the same underlying culture. Japanese cities are spotlessly maintained, not because of an army of street cleaners working around the clock, but because littering is rare. Civic culture internalizes the idea that shared spaces deserve respect. Train stations, public bathrooms, parks, and temple grounds are kept to a standard of cleanliness that visitors from elsewhere in the world consistently describe as remarkable. So Japan has virtually no public rubbish bins in many areas, and yet somehow the streets remain clean because people carry their waste until they find an appropriate place to dispose of it. And then there is omotenashi, the Japanese concept of hospitality that has no precise equivalent in any other language. It describes a form of service that anticipates needs before they are expressed, that treats every guest with genuine dignity and care, that gives without expecting anything in return. It is found in the way a shopkeeper wraps a small purchase with the same attention they would give an expensive gift, in the way a stranger will walk you to your destination rather than simply point you in the right direction, in the way a hotel room is prepared with a thoughtfulness that communicates that your comfort was considered. If for international travelers, particularly those arriving from countries where service can feel transactional, indifferent, or exhausting, omotenashi is revelatory. It is the reason more people than any other category say the same thing when asked why they are going back to Japan. They just want to feel the way Japan makes them feel. That feeling which is safe, clean, seen, and welcomed, and is the most powerful tourism driver on earth. And Japan has built it into the culture itself.